So Between is a show like Jericho, but 100% worse in every way, and I love it because of that. Between is a Netflix show about the coronavirus or something killing a bunch of people over the age of 21 in Canada. It's pretty bad. Like, really bad. But it's a good kind of bad. Much like Jericho, it's a show I think everyone should watch, but more so as a guilty pleasure, not so much as a, oh, that's a really good show. So the first episode starts on day 10 in a town called Pretty Lake where over 1,000 people are already dead. We see some kid hiding in the bushes trying to get to the fence that's keeping everyone in. But as he does, an alarm is sounded and several soldiers and spotlights come on, and then we get the title card. We then cut to day 1 where no one has died and we see our main characters, Wiley and Adam. Adam is the guy from the intro. Wiley is pregnant. They're in high school. We learn through some exposition that Adam is going to MIT while Wiley is the minister's failed daughter. We then cut to a teenager speeding down the street in a nice car and 2 guys working on a truck. The teenager keeps speeding, and as he passes a car on the left, he barely avoids killing the 2 guys working on the truck, destroying their left mirror. One of the kids, Ronnie, calls him a dick. We then cut to a black guy named Gord, who's supposed to be 19 but looks 40, walking out of a recruitment center while his sister berates him about joining the army. Wait, I thought this was supposed to be Canada. We then cut to a prison where 2 inmates are about to get into a scruffle before a cop girl breaks the situation up. Back at the school, Adam is talking to teacher lady who congratulates him on getting into MIT. Adam says he's excited because he's ready to leave town, and she's like, "It's not so bad here," and gives him a book for college, the same book she used to study her master's. Adam asks how old she is, and she replies with 21. Wait, is that allowed? I don't think a school would hire you if you're only 21 to be a teacher. I mean, maybe they would, and if so, I better start cracking, but that seems like a little too young to be a high school teacher. We then cut to a church where Wiley is picking up flowers and her sister walks in and says dinner's ready. Wiley gets a text from her phone and says, "Nah, I'm gonna party." Her sister is not impressed and asks her to finish cleaning up before she leaves. Wiley looks around the room and locks eyes with Jesus and sarcastically asks what he's looking at. Melissa then cries out and we cut to see their dad dead and Melissa crying. We then cut to a big house and we get the strangest editing I've ever seen where Pat, one of the guys working on the truck, pulls up and then it cuts to him closing the truck door, then standing next to the rich kid's car. He walks around the back of the house and meets the rich asshole, Mr. Lot. Pat tries to explain what happened, but Chuck, the rich kid, walks out and Mommy Lot's like,
"Oh, is this the kid you're talking about?"
"Wait, hold up. Pat's a fucking teenager? Motherfucker looks like he's almost 26. Sure, whatever." Mr. Lot then says,
"You have 10 seconds to get off my property."
but then Mrs. Lot starts moaning and choking, and Chuck is like, "Mom," and Mr. Lotz is like, "Baby, no!" And then she coughs up bile and dies. We then cut to Gord's farm where he's massaging a cow, and his grandfather asks if he should call a vet. As Gord says, "Nah, it'll be fine," his grandfather coughs up bile and falls over, and Gord's like, "Grandpa? Grandpa? Grandpa!" Cut to day 4 where over 47 people have died. We then get these cool shots of people texting on their phones asking what's happening, and an unseen news anchor exposits what's happening, and then we get a bunch of worried people. Now, I'm not sure if they're kids, because some of them look kind of older, but I get what they're going for. You know, it's one of those scenes where, like, we see, like, the text message on the screen, even though we're not actually looking at the phone, and I think it's done pretty well here, but unfortunately we get some stupid, shitty, cringe text messages that have, like, the hashtags, like, hashtag bile disease, or hashtag rip pretty lake. Like, why? We then cut to the big city where Ronnie is selling some dude drugs in exchange for guns, and then we cut to a medical center where a doctor is looking at the bile. Adam walks in and the doctor's like, "Adam, you shouldn't be here." Yeah, I agree. Why is Adam allowed into the room? Anyway, the doctor is his uncle, and Adam asks him if the ministry has said anything. When his uncle asks how he knows about that, Adam's like, I've been monitoring your phones and computers since this started. What the fuck? How? Emails I get, but phone calls? Are you on the same phone plan or something? The uncle's like, man, you're a genius. None of this makes any sense. And Adam's like, yeah. And then as he leaves, his uncle gives him a hug, telling him he needs to leave town before it's too late. Yeah, good job, asshole. You probably just killed him by being around the bodies alone. But then you hug him? Why? Why did this happen? Did no one think this would be stupid? At Adam's house, he's trying to convince his mom that they need to leave, but she's like, oh, you and your conspiracy theories. They said the same thing about SARS. Oh no. Oh no. She then goes off on him saying he's overreacting and he reminds her of his father, and then she coughs up bile and dies, and Adam couldn't even give a shit. Acting is hard, isn't it? Jesus, dude, at least look concerned. Cut to day 5, where over 300 people have died. The news says that the government might have a vaccine in the next few days. We then cut to Wiley's house, where Melissa is praying over the corpse of her mother, and Wiley's like, this is so stupid. And Melissa's like, we need to pray, and Wiley's like, I'm already fucked. Fuck God, and walks off. We then cut to a bunch of black cars driving down the road, and we see a bunch of soldiers setting up a barricade while the Canadian president addresses the residents over a TV. She says the town is under quarantine and there's a massive fence erected around the town. The town is upset and they're like,
This is a violation of our human rights!
holy shit, this show is so fucking ahead of its time. Oh my fucking god. We then cut back to the military checkpoint where Ronnie is driving up. 2 soldiers point at him and someone's like,
Initialize Biohazard Protocol 2-3 Bravo. Deny access into Pretty Lake.
wait, what? Why is the code to deny access into the town Protocol 2-3 Bravo? What the fuck could Protocol 1-whatever be? Hell, what's Protocol 2-1 and 2 Alpha? How many protocols are there for something like this? Am I overthinking it? Yeah, I'm overthinking it. Okay, so this scene is really funny. The soldier makes Ronnie pull up. Ronnie explains he lives there, and the soldiers are like, you live here? And he's like, what's happening? And they're like, step out of the car. So he does. They then ask him for some ID. They get mad when he says it's in his car and tries to go back and get it. By mad, I mean they pull guns on him. The sergeant then asks a soldier to check the backpack that's in the passenger seat of the car. The soldier pulls out 2 pistols from the backpack, and then the soldiers handcuff Ronnie against the car after cocking their guns. What the fuck is happening? Did they think he was going to get the guns to shoot them? One kid akimbo-wielding pistols was going to take down a squadron of soldiers? Also, what the fuck was the point of their response? He's not in any position to grab the guns. What is happening? Also, again, I thought this was Canada. Back at the hospital, we see 2 guys with masks and gloves collecting samples of bile from dead patients. Adam's uncle walks in and one's like, what are you doing in here without protection? Keep in mind, this guy is not wearing anything but a suit and tie, gloves, and a mask. Wouldn't the government send in people with, like, hazmat suits or something for this? Anyway, Adam's uncle's like, I've been around the body so much, if there's something to catch, I already got it. The government guy hands him a clipboard and's like, I wouldn't be so relaxed. Adam's uncle's like, you're serious? You can do this? And the guy's like, yes, we're taking the bodies. Then the doctor asks if they found anything, and the guy replies, no, not even a cause of death. Wait, so why should Adam's uncle not be so relaxed then? The government hasn't found anything yet. Or is that why? Because he's already determined that himself. Anyway, the guy thinks it's a virus, but Adam's uncle's like, no, it can't be. Viruses have symptoms. They weren't sick until they died. Nah, it's gotta be something we're missing. We then cut to Wiley signing adoption papers for her unborn child, and the lawyer is kind of trying to talk her out of it, but not really. He then walks to his safe, and Wiley watches him enter the code. He comes back with an envelope full of money and is surprised she isn't going to count it. Why? What are you hiding there, dude? Anyway, he says she'll get the rest of the money once the family gets the baby. He offers condolences to her father, too. Cut to the prison where Mark the white guy is being harassed by Hector the Mexican. 2 cops are watching to make sure it doesn't get out of hand. Mark tells Hector to stay out of his way. As Hector tries to attack him, he stabs him with the knife. Cop lady pulls her gun and fat old cop man beats down Mark after he dropped the knife. I thought this was Canada. We cut back to the Lott's house where Mr. Lott is watching the security cameras on his shop while his teenage daughter's like, "This is so stupid." And he says, "No, it's not. I'm protecting my stuff." She's like, "We're just gonna die anyway." And he's like, "No, I've been talking to some high-level government dudes. We'll survive and get out." Then, what are you doing watching your cameras if you're gonna leave soon? You're wasting your time, dude. Then his daughter's like, "Mom's dead. Other people are too. Stop ignoring it, Dad." And then his special needs daughter Amanda fearfully asks if they're going to die. Okay, so the actress that plays Amanda actually has Down syndrome, like in real life, so they incorporated that into her character, which was actually kind of cool. It's nice to see Down syndrome getting represented. Now, is the character well written? Chuck assures Amanda they'll be okay, and Lana walks away saying she wants to go anywhere but here. Back at Ronnie and Pat's house, Pat is talking to his parents on the phone while his sister is on Google reading about their lockdown. Jesus Christ, this family must have been triplets because they all look like they're in their early 30s. Pat's worried about Ronnie and then comforts his sister. We cut back to Gord's farm where his sister Franny comes outside, running into Gord's arms crying, saying that their dad's dead. We then cut to Adam's house where he hacks into government computers. Nope, not even fucking joking. This kid is able to hack into government computers. Okay, fine. Whatever, fine. He starts looking at the files of the people who are dead and starts reading off their ages and finds out no one under 21 has died. He then looks at a map of the area and the shifts of the soldiers and, I guess apparently detects some sort of blind spot during a shift change. Okay, sure, whatever. We then cut to day 10 where 2,810 people have died. Adam walks into the hospital and sees just all these dead people on gurneys and on the floor and like behind the office desk and everything. He looks for his uncle and finds him dead. We then cut to the outside of Pretty Lake where we see Ronnie and a soldier talking, where the soldier tells him he's free to leave, then warning him to stay away from the border because he won't get another chance. He's now a resident of the quarantine zone. He also gives him the pistols they took. Wait, why are they letting him in and not giving him the option to turn back to the city? Why does he have to go into Pretty Lake? Whatever. The soldier's like,
"We're probably just doing this so you all die and won't infect us."
We then cut to the prison where Cop Lady is walking around the cell block. Okay, so this is weird. In the background in front of her, as she's walking down the cell block, we see this cop, and he's locked in a cell, but he has all of his equipment still. Like, what, why? What? Was this a mistake? Was this, like, an extra that, like, got into the shop by accident and they just left it in? Like, whatever. Cop Lady walks up to Mark and is like, "How are you?" And he's like, "Fine." And she's like, "You can't survive in here without friends." And Mark's like, "Fuck that shit. Transfer me, bitch." She's like, "Nah, we're just gonna keep you locked up because you're still alive." And then Mark's like, "Just following orders. Heil Hitler." Oof. Oh boy, that didn't age very well. Outside the church, Adam is talking to Wiley about how only 21 and below are still alive. Wiley's like, "Isn't it just a matter of time?" And he's like, "No, I don't think so. I've been deep inside the government's computers. I know all their plans." It's just really hard to take this seriously. I get what they're going for, but come on. Anyway, Adam explains how he plans to get her out and begs her to come with him, but she denies because she's pregnant, but then he convinces her anyway. Cut to Ronnie's house, where he and Pat decide to have fun by going shopping. Back at Wiley's house, she starts packing up, but suddenly she goes into labor. Oh no! Isn't that just convenient? We cut back to Gord's house, where he's dragging his grandfather's body to a spot in the dirt he's going to bury him, but stops when he sees Franny. Back at Wiley's house, she's struggling to move down the stairs, while at Adam's house, he's packing up. She texts him saying she changed her mind, she's not going, don't try to contact me, so Adam calls her. She texts him back saying, what part of don't contact me don't you understand? And he replies, why? And she's like, I'm too big, I'd just slow you down. Go on, don't get shot. Send me a postcard from the other side. So we then get an aerial view of the town, and then we cut back to the Lott's car dealership where Ronnie and Pat break in and steal a truck. Mr. Lott sees this on his cameras, but the police aren't answering, so he and Chuck decide to take advantage of the quarantine because he has trackers on all of the cars. We then cut back to the prison where Fat Cop walks up to Hector's cell and explains all the cops are dead, so he gives Hector the keys and leaves the cell and says he knows where Mark is. Hector leaves the cell and grabs a gun from a dead cop. We cut back to Ronnie and Pat where they're speeding around in the stolen truck while Chuck and Lott are following them on an iPad. They turn to cut them off, and then we cut to Wiley's house where Melissa is trying to help her give birth. Then we cut back to the road where Pat and Ronnie slow down when they see a truck pulled over on the side of the road with red flares on the road. They think it's an accident, I guess. So they leave the truck to go investigate when Lotz pulls a gun on them and Chuck also has a gun. We're sorry, we thought no one cared, and Lott's like,
I do. You're going to be an example for anyone else who thinks it's okay to steal my merchandise.
Wait, what? I get he's like trying to keep order or whatever, but there's like no one still alive to buy your cars. Yeah, whatever. He tells them to take the clothes off. What the fuck? When they don't comply, he cocks his rifle and shoots at their feet, and Gord hears the shot. Lotz is like,
I don't ask twice.
And Chuck is like, wait, is this a good idea? And his dad's like,
yes, they need to be taught a lesson.
We then cut back to Wiley's house where Melissa is trying everything to get Wiley to relax, but Wiley ain't having none of that shit. Wiley's in a lot of pain and Melissa is unsuccessful in trying to help her calm down because they don't know what they're doing. Back on the road, Ronnie and Pat are in their underwear while Chuck brings a bucket of driveway sealer and Lotz tells them to lie on the ground. He also says he'd feather them if he had any. Ronnie asks to be shot first and Lotz is like,
it would be my pleasure.
But Chuck attempts to stop his dad before Gord walks up behind Lotz and pulls a gun on him, telling him to put the gun down. Lotz tries to say the law is on his side, but Gord's like, you just rich, motherfucker, not the law. And Lotz is like,
they don't deserve due process. They deserve to have a lesson made about them.
What the fuck? Holy shit. I thought this was Canada. Gord doesn't care and tells him to go home, so Lotz is like,
you have no idea what you just stepped into.
And Gord's like, I live on a farm.
I've got experience. Ah!
Melissa is busy looking up how to give birth on fucking WikiHow. While Wiley is in the background begging her to get help or else she'll die. Gord apparently drove Pat and Ronnie to the police station with the stolen truck so they can talk about what they stole. And then Pat tries to say he thought Mr. Lotz was dead, and Gord's like,
maybe the cops will believe that.
And then Melissa just happens to show up. I guess she just sprinted to the police station. Anyway, Gord decides to help Melissa and takes Lott's truck to go to Wiley's house. And back at Wiley's house, she's bleeding from the pregnancy. We then go to the prison where Mark is awakened by Hector doinking the pistol against the cell bars of other cells, slowly walking towards Mark. He opens the cell and makes Mark walk out and forces him on his knees, ready to execute him. Back at Wiley's house, Gord comforts her and helps her give birth. Back at the prison, Hector mocks Mark, but Cop Lady comes out of nowhere and saves Mark, telling Hector to drop the gun and kick it towards her. She then shoots Hector twice. I thought this was Canada! She then tells Mark to get into the cell and locks him in. Back at Wiley's house, Gord is trying to get Wiley to push, and she eventually does and gives birth to a boy. Then we cut to Adam, and the scene from the beginning happens. Adam runs away, and the soldiers open fire on him, and then they hit his backpack, and he falls over, and the episode ends. Alright, let's be real here. I have no fucking idea what the plan for this show was. It's like they have this cool idea, right? Where only the kids are alive, but they didn't want child actors because child actors typically suck, so they're adults. But basically, none of the main cast look believable as teenagers, and they aren't exactly great actors as is, so they kind of sometimes feel like child actors. Now, to be fair, for the most part, the script itself isn't actually that bad, and even the characters, for the most part, aren't that bad either. It's just the direction they go and the things they do. I mean, the show is kind of good. It's a lot of fun. I like it a lot. It's not a great show. There's a lot wrong with it, and I think that's why I like it. Because, funny enough, despite the way the actors look, they eventually do grow on you and make you kind of see them as the character they're trying to portray. The story itself is also really good. It's just sadly not casted well for the initial horror in the first episode to be believable. I do think it's worth watching, and much like Jericho, I am going to make a series about it. So I hope you enjoyed. Peace.